Hey, I'm Jade. Welcome to another talk with me. I'm going to talk today about parenting with OCD, the different challenges, the different struggles, just so that you can feel heard, I guess, and so that you know that you're not alone, but also what to expect if you work on recovery and can get to a really great place with parenting, as I feel I have. Just checking my microphone was on then. I like to use a microphone because I'm quite softly spoken a lot of the time, and sometimes when I'm talking, the video is not really picking up the sound very well. So I've got this little thing on which makes me look a little bit quirky and corporate, but it's just so you can hear me better. Okay, so if you're a parent or wanting to be a parent, one of the biggest things I think is how upsetting it can be when you really want to bond with your children and you really want to have that parent child experience and give them the best childhood that they can imagine, the one that you would have wanted for yourself if you didn't have the best childhood. And feeling that slipping away from you, that was the biggest thing for me. Like when I had my first child, who is now 4.5, it was really upsetting to me to feel like there was this, like, it felt like a glass wall between us. And it just felt like every month that went by, it was like everything was just slipping away from me. And it was the first time in my life where I cried because of OCD, because I used to just feel so grim and down in the dumps about everything that I didn't really cry. I just felt guilty and upset all the time and like down and depressed. But it made me cry when I had children because it was just the thought of missing it. You can really sense the time going past, and I just didn't want to miss it. And I feel like that gave me so much strength and determination because I wanted so badly to experience that bond with my children. So the way things started out for me in parenting was that I mentioned this in previous videos. I didn't actually know I had OCD until I was 6 months pregnant with my first child. And at that point, it was so early in the journey that I was just sort of getting to grips with what even is this? And obviously, now that I have it and I know I have it, it's just going to go because I know about it. But that just isn't the case. Um, and so, what I found most difficult was everything that you were meant to feel as a new parent, that joy, that excitement, everyone's excited for you and everyone's behind you and rooting for you, and you're just not feeling it at all. That was really emotional for me, and I felt angry with people who were happy as parents. I was like, how could you be enjoying this? This is terrible. This is so, because parenting is hard anyway. It is hard. I've with my second child, OCD is not really getting a look in anymore, so it's still hard, but it's nothing in comparison to my first experience with a baby. So I just used to look at people and be like, how could you be feeling joy in spite of all of this? But now I'm on the other side. I can really see how that is the case. And so what I want to talk to you about today is I just want to give you, like, I'm feeling quite pumped up today because I've just done a really cool work thing and I'm like all happy and like motivated. So I thought this would be a good time to just talk to you and just give you a bit of motivation to just like do what you might be afraid to do and like get out there and like face those fears. One of the most motivating things that I was told when I was having a really hard time with OCD was from another mum who had been on the same journey as me and who had gotten further along than me and reached, a really great place with recovery. And she was like, girl, you've got to jump into the fire. Like on those days when I was crying because I didn't want to do my exposures and I just didn't want to be a mum anymore and I was terrified, she was like, you've got to jump in the fire. You've got to get out there. You've got to do it. You've got to go for it. Don't look back. Don't overthink it. Just do it. And that's how I approached it from that day on. I saw it as like training for a marathon. Like no matter how hard it is, no matter how tired I am jumping in the fire. OCD can throw whatever it wants at me. I'm doing it anyway. And I do think that that is the fighting spirit we need. Now, don't get me wrong, there were so many days where literally I would be crying to my husband. I'd be like, I cannot do another exposure. I can't do this anymore. Dragging myself to do it, okay? And it is so easy to like put it off to another day. But I think because I'd suffered since the age of 8 and I'd never known a life without the suffering, I was just like, I got to a place where I was like, I am not living like this anymore. And I think that's what it takes. I think that's where we got to get to, recognizing that it's only us. We've got to be honest with ourselves about, are we working at it? Or are we just coasting and, residing ourselves that this is the best it can get? Because I did that for a long time. I was like, oh, I'll do it another day. But it was only me I was fooling. I could say to my therapist or my life coach or Rob at OCD Recovery or any peer support people that I was talking to in OCD recovery groups or Facebook groups, I could say, I just think maybe for now I need to leave it be. I need to leave it alone. When deep down I knew I needed to do those scary exposures. So reflecting back on how I felt, 4 years ago, I wanted to have a piece of art created to represent this. I felt like I was under a thunderstorm with my, child with me, and there was this umbrella over us, and I was just sheltering her from the rain. It was all hitting me, and I was just trying to protect her so that she would be happy in this bubble, with my husband like protecting over all of us, like just being the strong one. And it just felt like it was me against this hurricane. And I'd love to make that visual one day, because I do think that that is what most people feel like who've been in my position. It just felt like I will do anything to keep the sunshine on this little perfect thing, because I just didn't want my stuff to go on to her. And I never considered that I could end up happy. It was only, how can I make sure she's happy? I'll live my life making sure that she's happy. Not so much living my life through her, but just, look, I can get by. As long as she's good, I'm good. And that isn't as good as it can get, because it certainly got better than that for me a few years later down the line. So I was angry with other parents. I just couldn't believe that anyone could be enjoying it. I was not sleeping, not sleeping anyway because the baby was waking me up. I was just miserable, unhappy. And today I am definitely enjoying parenting, really happy with parenting. Um, Love my kids to bits, as we all do, but I'm actually able to enjoy it now. And I think one of the biggest things for that was the volume of exposures I did. I think that one of the biggest areas that isn't covered enough is that, yes, we need to work on unconditional self and life acceptance. That was the key for me, at least, because it didn't matter how many exposures I did to my fears, I would still come back to, I'm terrified of this thing. But it did actually take a lot more exposure work than I had imagined. So we need to be doing many more exposures than we think, and we need to do things until we're not scared of them anymore. So if you've just done an exposure a few times, such as, like, I don't know, bathing your children every night for 3 weeks, if that's something that terrifies you with like POCD, or cutting vegetables right next to your child using a sharp knife if you've got harm OCD, or not hiding the, whatever the avoidance compulsion is, the more that we do it and normalize it, every single time that we avoid doing that, we re-strengthen OCD. So my main message is, anything that you're avoiding, try and think about it and be like, I am doing that, I am avoiding it. Or anytime we ask for reassurance, or a big one for me was like Googling, signs of a parent who's going to be harmful, or signs of being a bad parent. I would Google. Um, so anything that you've been putting off from recovery, I would say, be really honest with yourself about that, and maybe write down, what things that you could do to overcome that. And so being a parent is challenging anyway, but I want to come at this from a place of positivity. So having gone through the recovery journey, I feel like I've got a deeper perspective as a parent than people who maybe haven't. I'm much more understanding and tolerant of children and their behaviours, and there's not much they can do or say that will faze me. And that is something that I think that we can focus on as parents, and think, do you know what? My brain may be a bit different and it may be unwell at the moment, but there is so much that I can unlock within my brain that's incredible as a result of this suffering. And so that's what I decided to do. So rather than feeling really sad about everything I lost, I decided to start seeing it as like, how can I grow from this? experience. And for me, I don't know if you've read this book yet, but on the reading list on the OCDrecovery.com reading list page, you can find it on the homepage, I think. One of the books, you need to read them in order, I think, but one of the books is by Viktor Frankl, A Man's Search for Meaning. And I reference this book a lot when I talk to people. This book changed my life so much. It really helped me to see that, and this is really relevant to parenting, that things, like, it's so annoying to say that things can be worse, okay? And like, it's a great book. It's a great example of what humans can endure. Like I didn't think that I could tolerate not sleeping for a year, and yet here I am. Like, I know I look a bit tired, but I haven't slept for a year very well. I've not slept through the night even once in a whole year. And I never thought that's something I could tolerate. But when you become a parent, you learn there is so much that you can tolerate, and you're strong having endured OCD for such a long time. And this book, Man's Search for Meaning, he's during the Holocaust, and what he endures is just unbelievable. And he explains to us throughout the book, what he learnt, what positive he took from this experience, and how he endured it. And I would say that if you can reflect on your experience in parenting and OCD in a similar way, that is going to set you up really, really well. Because I only see my earlier days battling OCD as a parent as like days where I was super strong. But turning that parental love into fight to get better, that for me has been the biggest thing. Now, I really don't want us to sound like, your children could be grown up now. I'm absolutely not saying like, oh, that's it, you've missed out. I'm not meaning that. I'm just talking about the strength I found at any point in life. We could be 75 with grandchildren and thinking, do you know what? No, now's the time that I'm gonna get better, really apply all the tools I've learned, and I'm gonna enjoy my grandchildren. There's no time limit. It's just to explain how I felt and where I'd got to. I think because my childhood was not always particularly happy, my parents weren't together, so I missed my dad a lot as a child. It just became a very strong part of me to want my children to have a full and varied childhood. And because my fears were preventing me from doing many things. So, for example, I didn't take my daughter swimming for the first 12 months of her life. Now, to me, that's really a shame, because with my second daughter, we go swimming like every week and she absolutely loves it. So, working out what are the things, having a vision for what type of parent do I want to be. If there were no fears here, like, who would I be as a parent? And that is a great way to have a goal and have a real like drive behind doing the exposures, doing the hard work for recovery. And that's what I did. That's my secret sauce, I suppose, as a parent with OCD, is find that grit and determination. Like, what do you want as a parent? And for me, it was, I don't want them to miss out. I want to go to Disneyland. I want to go to theme parks. I want to take them like to the beach. We live at the beach. Now, before children, I didn't go to the beach for 8 years. I live at the beach. How insane is that? I used to make up reasons to myself as to why that was normal behavior. I'd say, oh, I don't like things when they're busy. But no, it was my fears. I didn't want to go to the beach. I didn't want to face my fears. I was living in avoidance. And once I start to have children, it's like people around you saying, oh, it's so great that you live at the beach and you've got kids. And now, I went today earlier on. I took them to the beach for a few hours, came home, did a bit of work. Like, that's my life structure now. And like, I don't want to imagine not doing that. So it's never too late. Your kids could be 15. Like, there's still time if you want to change, the way that you're parenting. And I mean the way you're parenting in the sense of, we're all great parents. I am sure you're a great parent, but you should be enjoying this too. Like, it's not just about them. This is about you as well. Like, this is the best experience of our life, aside from the most difficult experience of our life. And I think that unrelenting desire to enjoy it, and back to what I said about my childhood not being great, I was like, am I really going to have a life where my childhood pretty much sucked? And I mean, yeah, there were happy times too, loads of cool memories, but and I don't get to witness my kids growing up, it just crushed me. And I think in any area of OCD, finding that thing that drives us, that vision. And I don't know if I'm a fan of vision boards, but I would definitely say that having some kind of vision, I'm a visual person, so I like a visual vision board. And quite like to organize life and like have, you know, here's what I want, here's what I envisage in the different areas of my life, and how can I get to them. It takes action. And you know, we talk about manifesting and stuff, and there's a little bit of manifesting that goes on in my life. I like to envisage the reality that I want, but ultimately our actions create that. And I started to realize that I could wait another 15 years and this will be gone. Before, when I was like 18 to 20 to 30 or whatever, and I'd lost all that time, it was weird because it's you and you don't notice that you're getting older or that the things that are missing or that. But with children, it is so apparent, each stage it goes through, each thing you decline because of avoidance. And if there's one thing I can leave you with, is just to reflect on what you want. What do you want? You know, you, like, we only live once, and coming to terms with that is just mind blowing in my opinion. Like, what do you want, and then what can you do to get to that? That fighting spirit is what's going to help you get through those difficult days where you're crying on the floor. This is just me at my husband's feet. I can't do this anymore. Like, I'm dead. I can't do this. There's no point. And that belief usually stems from, it's never going to get better. But I'm here to tell you that I am better. You know, I live a happy life. I love my kids. There's nothing I avoid anymore. There's no rumination going on. There's no time spent obsessing over something that happened. Yes, I get intrusive thoughts like everyone does, but they don't feel like, they don't flood me. They kind of can be icky at times, but it's like, and yeah, I mean, there's so much waiting for you if you want to do the work and do those exposures and break down those irrational beliefs. And, you know, it just doesn't matter how far along you are. Like I said, whether you're a grandparent or a parent, decide to prioritize recovery. That's what it takes. It's harder than we would want it to be, and that is gut wrenching. But perspective now, I am grateful for the early days of parenting that were so super hard. My bond with my children is remarkable, and my ability to resonate with their emotions and how they might be feeling and stay cool and calm, because nothing can faze me. Like, when you come out the other side, you realize how strong you are. It feels like you've held your breath underwater for 8 years and then come up to take a breath and you're just like, wow, look what I did, and I'm so grateful for this breath. Like, that's what's waiting. But it takes time. And I would say my complete journey is like naught, from naught to 3 years. Like, 3 years is, I started working on things when my daughter was 1, like really working on things. And then like a year of coasting and not really doing the work. And then 6 months of doing nothing at all. And then 6 months of really going for it. And then 8 months for everything to sink in, and then more exposures. And it takes time. Like, don't give up. Don't beat yourself up. Part of the journey is giving up for a couple of months. Don't go too easy on yourself, but, you know, chill out from time to time. Don't worry about it so much. It's a really hard journey, but you can do it. And yeah, there's so much happiness waiting for you. The last thing that I'm going to leave on is, try and enjoy your children. Like, even despite OCD, like, bring it for the ride, get out there, make the exposures part of life. Like, if there's something you've been avoiding doing, go tomorrow. You'll never feel more ready. And yeah, try and enjoy them. Like, even in spite of it, you know, that Viktor Frankl book shows us that you can endure things, and you can live alongside things, but don't settle. Do not settle for it. You can have better. Okay. And I'm going to go and hang out with my kids. They're in the garden. I think we're having a barbecue. So the sun is shining, and I'm going to say goodbye for now. Thank you.